That's a really good question. I wish all first-time buyers were as direct and straightforward as you are in regard to that question. What qualifies me to work for you to buy your first home? Well, I bought my first home probably about 42 years ago. In fact, you'll get a chuckle out of this, $20,100. And I remember how scared I was. There was two things that I vividly remember. It was $20,100, obviously, and the other thing was sitting in front of the bank manager when I had to sign my name. I mean, you know, we're talking about a huge commitment here. So how does that work into it? I have an idea of how you feel. One of the other things I've actually got too, which again might not necessarily sound like a lot, but Liz and I have 5 kids. 4 of them are homeowners. So we've got people your age that are into home ownership, and we've got grandchildren, so we understand why there's some concerns about daycare and having kids go to school and kids going to college. All this is part and parcel of you buying a home. One of the other things too, of course, is the financing aspect of things. When we're talking about kids and schools and daycare and just yourselves, you know, you have to be able to understand that home ownership is an important part, but it's not everything in life, you know. We've got, you might just want to go on a little holiday or something. So it's important to sit down with somebody that's really qualified. In fact, I've been in the business long enough, about 25 years, that when I first came into the business, we as realtors sat down and said, how much money do you make? How many payments do you have? Not just relying on the bank or the mortgage broker. And I really insist on working with good, solid mortgage brokers that not just ask the basic questions, say, oh yeah, go ahead and buy a home, make it conditional, and we'll sort the rest of the details out. It's really important that we know that before you actually go out and start looking at homes, because I don't want to disappoint you. I don't want to show you homes that when it comes right down to it, you look at it and go, oh my gosh, I can't make that kind of a payment on an ongoing basis. So one of the other things that we're going to talk about is, aside from the finances, but you know, what are your interests? Do you like indoor stuff? Do you like outdoor stuff? One of the probably the key things that makes me qualified to help you buy your home, I truly believe I'm a good listener. And that's not just a matter of being somebody that sits here and listens and maybe makes some notes. It's also a matter of having an interest in what you're doing. Keep in mind, you know, you and I have to work closely together, which means there has to be some personality stuff there. If I hear about some of the things and you hear about some of the things about me, it's going to be easy to work together. You know, we're going to have that comfortable confidence to talk about things that are real. You know, sometimes, you know, I sit here and people talk about things that they don't talk to each other about if we can get into the right rapport. And let's face it, I may not necessarily be the right realtor for you. I'm hoping we can work together, but we're only going to do it if we're both comfortable and saying we're very comfortable, our ideas are similar enough, and I'm not putting you into a position that is uncomfortable for you, and that I'm getting out of it what I need as well. Okay, into the process of how we go about this, we're going to sit down, we're going to have an interview just like we're now, only I'm going to start and ask some of the questions. But we're going to talk about things you're looking for, where you feel you want to be, then we're going to qualify you financially. I'm going to actually give you also a complete sheet of what the costs are to close, because I know that there's nothing worse, and I've heard of this. It doesn't happen to me very often, but I've heard of this where somebody gets a week before closing, you go to the lawyer's office and all of a sudden they're $4,000 or $5,000 short, and man, I'll tell you, that can hurt. So we're going to make sure you have a good understanding of what all the closing costs are in regard to land transfer tax and legal fees and appraisal fees, etc., etc. And in actual fact, because of my contacts with mortgage brokers and the legal profession and whatnot, maybe we can even help save a few dollars in that regard as well. Then we're going to sit down and look at some properties. And what we do is, it's not an instant thing. Keep in mind, I've got to get inside your head. I've got to find out what you're looking for, because the last people that I talked to, they're looking for something totally different than you are, and the next people will be something else. So it's important that you feel free, and that actually brings up another point that we're going to discuss, and that is working with a particular realtor. It's really important, in my opinion, not just because I want you to work with me, that is the case, but not altogether. It's also, if I know, first of all, that you're working with me and I'm going to work with you, I've got time to work with you. If I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to get paid at the end of the day, and I'm going to show you one house, I got one shot to sell you a home. But if I know that I'm going to sell you a home, I've got the time to go and make sure that I get the very best property for you, because let's face it, I'm a professional salesman. Therefore, I can probably lead you in a direction that you not necessarily are completely comfortable with at the end of the day. But I'm also a professional salesman in knowing that if I give enough people exactly what they want, I can have everything that I want. And that's an important part of my philosophy. We just want to touch on another subject, and that's in regard to the working together portion of it. It's really important for me anyway, and it really is important for you as well, that we work together on this purchase of a property. You see, I run into a lot of people and they say to me, I just want to work with the listing agent. And I understand where that's coming from. That is something that we as realtors actually kind of initiated that. But if I'm working with you and you're working with me and we know that we've got that commitment to each other, I know that I can work on it diligently, spend time on it, because at the end of the day, that's how I make my living. I sell homes. If I've got one shot because of the listing agent to sell you the home, I'm going to tell you whatever it takes to get you to make a commitment to that home. But if I know that my objective is to make you happy by finding the right home, you see, it starts like this. It's like a pyramid. And at the bottom, the first time or two we go out, we're going to see 3 or 4 houses, and there may be one in there that kind of catches your attention. But as it goes through, and the more times that we go out, the narrower it should get. That the last few times that we look, 2 out of 3 homes should catch your attention enough to say, wow, that's pretty close to what we're looking for. Maybe that is the one that we're looking for. Sometimes that, by the way, is in the very first group that we see, and that's okay, as long as we've got ourselves qualified financially. We know we can make that commitment, and we've had enough conversation that we're all comfortable with what we're doing. I know, as part of my philosophy, that if I help enough people get what they want, I can have everything that I want. So if I work diligently with you, you're extremely satisfied with the results, which is the home that you buy. You probably have friends, because you're at that age, which is particularly interesting to me, that you've got friends that are also going to be buying homes. So you can say to them when they're saying, well, you know, I wasn't with Remax, I wasn't with Glenn, and you know, we were just seeing the houses that they had listed, or maybe we were just seeing the homes that they thought, I want to listen, I want to help get the right home, then I want you to help introduce me to friends that you care about where we can help them as well.